My name is Adrian Stanica, Scientific Director of the Romanian National Institute of Marine Geology and Geoecology, briefly known as GeoEcomar. And at the beginning, I was wondering, why should I be the last presenter of this panel? Because it would be difficult to see everything. But no, I thank you all, because actually everything went on very smooth. We spoke about the framework, we spoke about legislation, we spoke about politics, we spoke about policies, we spoke about opportunities in business, and about the possible and future infrastructure. Maybe I can come now and contribute with some things that have been through all the presentations, but group them into one as a added value to all the other speakers. And I think that we've been living together here for many years in very difficult times, and at least the past 80 years, I'm not 8 years old, I'm only 47, but the past 47 years have been always in transition. And in this transition, we start forgetting, because of everyday existence and everyday problems, we start forgetting the big picture. And the big picture is the existence of a common cultural history, a common Black Sea identity that didn't start yesterday. It started more than 8,000 years ago. Some people say that the roots of Homo sapiens come from this region, be it north, east, west, or south. But what we can know for sure is that about 3,000 years ago, 3 millennia, the ancient Greeks entered the Black Sea areas and started building the Greek colonies that interacted with the local communities. This is how we started to have documented sources that we can rely on. And this is how we can see that our ancestors, no matter who they were, the Black Sea populations started developing a common culture, a common heritage, and have started interacting between them. Not just in the Black Sea, but also with the Mediterranean. And I'll come back and talk about this. Just try to look at this map. About 3,000 years ago till nowadays, it's still the same. A very good friend of mine, a researcher in Italy, said that actually the Black Sea can be considered as the biggest lagoon of the Mediterranean. Because of all the political changes, we keep to forget that we are part of the Mediterranean, and I think it is important to keep in our minds that we need to return there. From the ancient Greeks, times went on, and political boundaries changed, populations changed, but a common heritage continued to be built. From the ancient Greeks to the Roman Empire, from the Romans to the Byzantines, from the Byzantines coming to about 1,000 years ago, which were years that were thriving with communication and commerce. Not just the Italian republics, not just the Genoese and the Venetians that came here, but also the interactions between the Byzantines and the Vikings, the birth of the Kievan Rus, and the existence after that of the Tartars. This is the area through which Marco Polo passed on his travel to China and returned and changed the face of Europe. And I think we must be proud of that and keep reminding this. Times changed and the Ottoman Empire took over, but continuous interactions kept on, even though, as I said, boundaries changed. All our common cultural heritage grew together. And all the way now, I was told that I have only 7 minutes. I wanted to go like for 7 hours talking on this argument, but this is why I try to be very synthetic. And we are now at the end of very complicated period for some countries, in the midst of complicated period in some other countries, but we are still here. We are part of the Black Sea Basin, so we can see that the Black Sea is us. What can we do? We need not to forget, and we need to promote our common, very rich and long-lasting cultural heritage. And here, I added a few images from the ancient Greek period, from the western Black Sea coast of Istria on the Romanian coast, to the legend of the Golden Fleece from the nowadays Georgia, from the Kolchis area, where the Argonauts went more than 2,500 years ago. Archaeology and science and all the written documents bring in amazing stories that we need to study, we need to remember, and we need to give people these dreams to build on and attract them to come over. And, well, tourism has been a major destination for at least the last 100 years. These are pictures from all the 6 Black Sea countries. Mass tourism has been one of the important sources of revenue. But times change. As you've seen, it's not just political borders, not just populations, but also tastes. So I think it's time to ask ourselves, is mass tourism, which was so popular back in the 60s and 70s of the last century, is it still important, or are people willing to find something else? And I think that in the Black Sea we have enough cultural heritage and we can give enough stories so that we can launch a new type of tourism. And this is where science brings in lots of important things. These are the results of a CBC, Romania-Bulgaria, cross-border cooperation, Romania-Bulgaria project coordinated by GeoEcomar together with our friends in the Institute of Oceanology in Varna and the Museums of Archaeology in Cagliacra and in Cavarna, and in Constanța, and companies, when we decided to look for something completely different to what used to exist. So we started searching for submarine, for wrecks, identifying wrecks, and together with NGOs, trying to develop plans for adventure tourism, for adventure scuba diving. And I can tell you it works. It was amazing to see the popularity of this project that gives a new economic direction, it gives a new direction to coastal tourism, and it is all based on what we have here. It's just under the sea, and based, of course, on science, which is very important. So what about the future? The future is not something abstract. The future is something that we are building today together, I think. And yes, as it was spoken before, we need a stronger, definitely stronger Black Sea infrastructure. We need to come back to what I was saying, to restore the Black Sea cultural identity. We have it, but because of the different times, we tend to forget it. We need to take it back and build with it. We need to remember that we are not just part of a community, but we are a smaller community that is part of the world of the Mediterranean. It has always been, and it will always be. And we need to remind that the Caucasus has been the road towards Asia, and from Asia to Europe, and going to the Caspian and up the rivers. I wrote only about the Danube, but it's also the Dnieper. And we can remember that going upstream the rivers, we interconnect people, civilizations, and cultures. And this is just talking about the cultural heritage, but it is not only that. And yes, it's true, science can come and bring in with the other major biological, ecological, and geological heritage, which are so rich and diverse in these regions. So this is why integrated touristic plans that bring culture to food, I would say also wine tasting, which is a common heritage that we need to build on, taking people to the biosphere reserves and other wildlife areas in the regions can promote new business and bring in money in a sustainable manner. But what we need to do is to try to avoid the mistakes of the past. Mass tourism, and not only that, had a huge negative impact in the end on the coastal environments. So what we need to do is to shape these plans that can become, and have become in some parts, reality in harmony with nature, looking at true sustainability and not trying to overdo again. And of course, I'm a researcher, so I have to end up with this. Of course, science is the one that matters and is one of the driving forces that can fulfill all these needs, that may provide answers to all the questions and discussions that we had before. That's it. Thanks a lot.